Over to them.
Thank you. Thank you.
How's it going, everybody? My name is Mike Carnito. I'm the founder of Long Island Paranormal Investigators. I started the group in 2003 on a dare. Basically, we were just a bunch of friends hanging out, playing hockey, and we started talking about all the different haunted locations on Long Island, and King Spark Site Center came up. So I dared two of my friends to go into building 93, the King Spark Site Center, and like, yeah, let's do it. So we got some crappy walkie-talkies, a crappy video camera, and we went, and we parked at the bar across the street. The two guys went in, and they were in there for about an hour and 45 minutes. And towards the end, they were in one of the sub-level basements, and they heard a loud bang sound. Camera turned off, they freaked out, ran out, and me and the co-founder kind of were intrigued by that. So we started looking up all the different locations of Long Island, and we came across some equipment that they sell that goes on with the theories. So we bought some stuff and got started, and we wanted to basically see if there was any truth to what people are saying that's happening at these locations. And sure enough, we started capturing evidence. So we kept doing that for a while, and then we kind of opened it up and started doing house investigations where people would contact us to come in and do a house investigation. We started doing that, and then we started doing presentations and lectures, and now we do public ghost hunts, and here we are today.
Hello, everybody. I'm Michelle. I've been with the group for about 3 years. I am the public relations manager and the event coordinator. I'm also in the psychic department and the stones department. Outside of the group, I am a shamanic practitioner. So when we talk about removing entities and things like that briefly, I'm one of those people who can do that. And tonight we have a lot of different ghosty things to go over with you, so enjoy.
Yay.
Hello, I am James. I am the tech manager with the group. I've been with the group for about 5 years, maybe 6, who's counting. I kind of handle all of our equipment and maintain it, keep it organized, get it ready, all that fun stuff. So we kind of have one of the largest collections of equipment in the world, I would honestly say. A lot of it we get just to debunk it. A lot of it we actually use and trust. I kind of get to handle all of that stuff. So it's a lot of fun.
My name is Connor Flanagan. I'm the assistant tech manager here in the group, and I'm the assistant director of the Southampton History Museum. So I, in my professional life, worked as a historian, and so getting involved with the ghost hunting group came sort of naturally when I needed to do a ghost hunting program in my museum, and I came across these guys, and it worked out really nicely. That happened about 3 years ago, and I joined pretty much right after that. And yeah, with James, I sort of helped take care of all the equipment and manage all that stuff. And we're probably gonna get started talking about one of the most common types of hauntings that I have happen to me at work. Residual hauntings. So residual hauntings are one of the most common types of hauntings that can occur. This is basically the type of haunting where the spirit or ghost doesn't exactly know you're there, doesn't care that you're there, they don't know that they're there. Basically, something traumatic has occurred or something has happened enough times where there's basically a scar on the earth. There's enough residual energy where this happenstance may occur on repeat. It's not going to happen all the time at the exact same times. It could be random. It could be more permanent at a certain time frame. But these things basically just occur, and it could just be somebody walking across a room. Over here, we have pictures of Gettysburg battlefield, a place where the group actually just went on a recent trip. And this is somewhere where residual haunting is said to happen pretty frequently. A lot of people have gone to Gettysburg and seen reenactments go on, and then go to thank the Park Service, or, oh, that was really cool reenactment. We saw the soldiers running around, and no reenactment happened. A lot of things like that can occur. One of the other things that can occur is it's not always just people appearing and walking around. It could be items and things like that. It could also be sounds. So what we're going to play for you now is a clip from an investigation that LIPI did back in March 26, 2011, that we captured of some cannon fire.
1,000 bodies over there to deal with, 3,000 over here. Like, I don't know if there was just set people that, or it was just like weeks, like to do it, and like people. That's so you, my friend. The hell is that? Where did that come from? That definitely that way.
So who you heard speaking on that clip was Mike, who's actually there when that happened. So if you want to explain that a little bit.
Sure. So with Gettysburg, we actually got up really early that morning. We were probably on the battlefield around 6 a.m. and we were investigating. And about 10 minutes in, we hear what sounds like cannon fire. And you'll hear us, we kind of go silent because you hear that. And I asked one of the guys in our group, he was a Civil War reenactor. So he's dealt with musket fire, they've lit off cannons before, he knows what that sounds like. And we asked him, I was like, that's all you, my friend. And sure enough, he's like, where did that come from? And then later on the recording, he says, yeah, that sounds like cannon fire. We couldn't explain it, happened one time. Yeah, so we could play that again.
Yep, I'll play it again for everybody. So everybody gonna hear on that.
1,000 bodies over there to deal with, 3,000 over here. Like, I don't know if there was just set people that, or it was just like weeks, like to do it, and like people. Oh, you, my friend. The hell is that? Where did that come from? That definitely that way.
So yeah, unless there was some fireworks going off that you guys also didn't notice all the big fireworks going off, pretty strange noise to occur sort of out of nowhere, especially around 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the morning. Not something that would maybe commonly happen. Maybe if that was at nighttime, you could maybe assume there's reenactment somewhere nearby, but definitely an odd time for that to occur. Sachs Bridge is another location in Gettysburg that's quite active. So active, in fact, that it's kind of more of a hangout spot it ends up being, where every time the group goes, it's kind of hard to actually investigate it because so many people want to go there and see. I mean, you see a creepy old bridge like that, it drives kids to want to go hang out. One of the other stories that's not exactly associated with Gettysburg is the Flying Dutchman. Has anybody here heard of the story of the Flying Dutchman before? Vaguely familiar?
Yeah.
So basically, for anyone who's not familiar, it is the story that there is this old ghost ship, probably a colonial era, Revolutionary War era ship that is sailing off the coast of the Atlantic Ocean. And as people try and sail closer to it, it disappears. It always gets away. It'll sort of disappear into the mist if you see it from the shoreline. It is a residual haunting of a ship. It's never going to attack or do anything. It's just kind of going about its business.
The next type of haunting we have is poltergeist haunting, just like the movie. So this particular haunting is, I would say, easily one of the most confusing types of hauntings. And the reason for that is because of the media. The media gets this wrong a lot. So poltergeist, it's the German word for noisy ghost. It came about around the 17th century. And basically what a poltergeist haunting is the most important thing for a poltergeist haunting to happen. So is that there has to be some type of epicenter for this haunting to happen. And that's where a lot of things get confusing, where the claims that you'll have, what will kind of happen is things will get thrown, hair will be pulled, and it's kind of like almost a playful trickster type of haunting. It usually happens in adolescent girls, and the reason for that is a lot of kind of built up energy, built up emotions when they're going through that phase, and all that energy, all that emotions, it just starts to kind of manifest something. And some of the more famous poltergeist hauntings, you have the Bell Witch of Tennessee, you have the Rosenheim poltergeist, and of course the one that everyone knows, which is the Enfield haunting. This is the haunting that The Conjuring 2 was based off of. And the reason why this is a poltergeist haunting is the haunting itself was centered off the daughter, Janet. Basically what had happened is one day, all of a sudden, there was a lot of noise being made at night. So the mother went up into the kids' room to tell them to kind of, stop making all that noise. It's late at night, go to bed. And mother goes up, kids are huddled in a corner, scared out of their minds. And she's like looking around the room's trash, and all of a sudden, I believe it's either a marble or a Lego. It kind of depends on who you hear it from. I first heard it as a Lego gets chucked at her head. So what happened was, and this is also, as you know from the movie, an Ed and Lorraine Warren case, but this case actually spanned, I believe, about 8 months of investigating. And what they found was that the 11-year-old girl, Janet, was actually causing this. And the way they found that out was they would remove her from the house. All of a sudden, nothing happened. They'd remove her from a room. All of a sudden, activity stopped in that room and started where it was happening for her in the room that she was in. And they were kind of tracking this actually for about 7 or 8 months. I think it was 8 months. And they just found that she was the epicenter of this type of haunting. She was the root cause, basically. Usually with a poltergeist haunting, the way that it stops is it actually just kind of stops. The kids will grow out of it, whatever emotions or stress or anxiety or whatever's your strong emotions that are causing this type of haunting to happen, eventually it'll just kind of end. So if you do have that type of haunting, best way to do it is actually just to look at yourself and just kind of breathe, calm down, and kind of get rid of all that negative emotions.
One of the other types of hauntings that happens pretty frequently is an intelligent haunting. So as I mentioned before, I worked at the Southampton History Museum, and basically 2 out of the 4 properties we own are definitely haunted. And they definitely have residual and intelligent hauntings. The residuals are, I'll hear footsteps walking around the house on occasion, but they're always kind of constant, so kind of believe those to be more residual. But intelligent are the kind that want to talk to you, they want to mess with you, they want to do stuff, and then they do said stuff. So for instance, at Eastern State Penitentiary, the group of LIPI has investigated that in the past. And basically what happened there was throughout the course of the investigation, asking questions, asking for responses. One of the devices that was used was a K2 meter. Many of you, maybe if you've seen the TV shows, you've probably seen it before. It's a small rectangular device, kind of looks like a remote control. It has some lights on it. And what it's checking for is spikes in the EMF, the electromagnetic field. So if a ghost is trying to manipulate it, they might manipulate the electromagnetic field. And if you say, please make these lights go off, they make the lights go off. Please turn them off, lights go off. It's intelligently responding to your questions. One of the other stories that we have here, San Antonio, Texas, Mike has a great personal experience to share.
Sure. So this story at San Antonio actually, there's a location here on Long Island, Melville, called Sweet Hollow Road. There's a Northern State Overpass Bridge on Sweet Hollow. That storyline was actually stolen right from this one. So at Sweet Hollow, they say that a busload of kids was driving down Northern State and it slid on some ice and went to come, fell off the overpass onto Sweet Hollow Road, killed everyone. And supposedly, if you drive under the bridge, you put your car in neutral, your car will be pushed out of harm's way. There's no records of that, and it was straight from this one that actually happened here in San Antonio. The storyline here in San Antonio, very similar. A bus back in, I think it was like the 1930s, was driving up over the tracks, stalled out, freight train came, hit the bus, killed everyone. They actually named all of the local signs in that area after all the kids that passed away. So the storyline is, you go there, you put your car in neutral, and sure enough, your car gets pushed up over the hill. So what I do, I went there. The car that you see in the photo is my rental car. On that side of the road, somebody actually spray painted the line where you pull up, you put your car in neutral. So sure enough, I did it. Put the car in neutral, right away, it starts moving.
Wow.
Every time. So therefore, if it happens every time, I am able to debunk that. Me being the scientific person that I am, said, okay, there is a spot where the tracks, you can see the incline where I put my car in that incline and declines, just right before the tracks. Instead of parking at the line, I put my car right in front. So I sat there and I was there for about a good, I'd say 5 minutes. And we were asking questions and all of a sudden my car went up and over. That I cannot explain, which is pretty wild. A lot of people, what they'll do is they'll do experiments. They'll put baby powder all over the back of their car, and their car will move up over hill. They'll see little fingerprints and handprints, shoe prints. There was a TV show years ago that did it before a psychic there. They did that test, and sure enough, you actually saw a handprint, and it looked like a little footprint on the bumper. When you do experiments like that, you got to be careful, because if you don't wipe down your car thoroughly and you just throw baby powder on it, the oils from your hands that are already on it will like soak up that baby powder and look like there's handprints. So when you do experiments like that, you really got to clean it and know what you're doing. As you can see, these tracks are very different than here on Long Island. Long Island, you pull up to a railroad crossing, there's gates that come down, flashing lights go, you know there's a train coming. Here, you don't have that. This was back in 2008, 2009 when I went. You don't see any lights, you don't see any gates, it's just a railroad crossing. So when you pull up, you got to make sure you look both ways before you go up and over. And this is recent. So yeah, it's pretty wild. So I was only there like once or twice. I never did like a full-blown investigation where we had a lot of equipment set up and stuff like that. But in the future, we're looking to definitely go back. So
Very good.
yeah.
One of the other places where the groups had reactions with intelligent type hauntings is up in Lake George at Fort William Henry. So there was an investigation the group conducted in November of 2011. And in the building that sort of, where's the cursor? Right down over here, right in this little door, the group was stationed in there. And I believe it was a group of Mike, the tour guide, a handful of guests.
It was like 3 guests and one of our other members.
Yeah, and asking questions, you know, what's your name? How do you feel? You know, do you like us being here? Do you want us to leave? Can you make a loud noise? And we got the following recording.
So yeah, we were quiet at the time because we were hearing like banging sounds. So we were trying to listen and see if we can capture more of it. And then all of a sudden you hear this just rapid knocking, and we kind of froze. And everyone kind of looked at me and I'm like, I have no idea what that is, you know. There was a couple of other experiences we've had in that room as well, where there was like a wooden bench there and we would investigate, and literally would sound like if I was to put my foot on the bench and just kick it and slide it across the room, the sound that made, that happened quite a few times in that room. You can't explain it. So we don't know why it happens, but yeah, I mean, we're able to capture it on audio. We can play the rapid knocking again if you want.
Yep, I'll play it again for everybody to take a listen.
Yeah, it's caught us off guard. We had no idea. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, the thing with intelligent hauntings are, I feel like they're probably one of the most common. If you're going to have a haunting, it might end up being an intelligent haunting that you may think is something else. So you might commonly think you're having a poltergeist in your house because you might have a plate go flying across the room, and you've seen the movie, so you go poltergeist. But as James was talking about before, poltergeist has a very sort of specific idea. An intelligent haunting could just be throwing plates around. So you could think of it as basically when a person passes away and their spirit is around, if it was a nice person, you might have a nice intelligent Casper in your house. If that was a jerk, you might have a jerk. One of the other locations that we primarily go to a lot is Mount Misery in Huntington. So if you go to Mount Misery, we've divvied it up into several different sites to sort of help with our sort of investigation style. The recordings we're going to play are from an investigation that occurred at Site 2, as we call it. And these are from way back in 2006. So Mike, if you want to explain a
Yeah,
little bit.
definitely. So Site 2, Mount Misery, it's actually West Hills County Park. If you are familiar with the Melville area, driving down Sweet Hollow, you're going to cross underneath the Northern State Overpass Bridge, keep going, when you get to the stop sign, you make the left on Chichester Road, take that all the way down to the end. That's Mount Misery. You make the left, follow that down till you hit dead end. There's like a tree that's down there, a log in the road that's a dead end. In those woods is where we go. So basically, it was our first night there. It was me and a group of 9 other people. We had 10 in a group total. We're walking in the woods and down the trails, and I'm the last guy in line. And we started hearing some static over our walkies. We didn't really think anything of it. And I started feeling like there was something like watching us from behind. So I looked and I saw what's called a shadow person. And we'll kind of get into shadow people in a little bit, but basically what it looks like is a humanoid figure, just mass, like black opaque figure. And I saw that a couple times. I didn't say anything. I didn't want to freak the team out. And we get to this spot where the main pathway, there's another pathway coming off it, and there's like a red fire hydrant in the woods. So right at that moment, we got a voice that came on our walkie-talkies that said, "They're here." Said it twice. And it lasted for about 1:45 seconds. It said, "They're here. Please let me out. My name is." Other things came out that we're not playing tonight, but said, "Please let me out. Help me. I'm burning." The one that says, "My name is," we actually asked the question, "What is your name?" And we got the response that said, "My name is," and it cuts out. When we're asking the questions, we're not asking it through the walkie. All these voices are coming over the walkie. So it was just a really odd experience. Freaked us out, but we just kept going. So we'll play those clips.
Over here. Stop. Please let me out. Please let me out. Somebody's here now. Please tell us your name.
Yeah, so the storyline of Mount Misery Road is that back in sometime in the 1700s, there was either a military hospital or a psychiatric hospital there. A patient broke out, burnt it down multiple times, and after about 3 times, they stopped building it. There is no records of this. We've dug very deep. We couldn't really find much. But we did notice, we did find some type of foundation in the woods. Not from that era though, it's from cinder blocks, and cinder blocks weren't used on Long Island, I want to say it's like the late 1800s. So these recordings kind of went with the storyline of that, but we're still trying to piece it all together. So, but intelligent because it was responding to stuff that we were asking. So.
I'll play those all again first. Sure. Here we go. If I find the cursor. There we go.
Over here. Stop. Please let me out. Please let me out.
This one?
Yeah, the cursor disappeared. There we go.
Somebody's here now. Please tell us your name.
Intelligent.
All right, so now we have shadow people. This is always a fun one. So like Mike was saying before, what is a shadow person? So a shadow person usually appears humanoid, just kind of a black opaque mass. So you kind of see, this is your more kind of standard one with like the top hat and nicely well dressed. Basically, what a shadow person is a shadow person is something that was never human to begin with. It is commonly thought that it's from the 8th dimension or some other type of interdimensional species. Very quick moving. As soon as you see it, it's gone. It could get across this room instantly. Want to go to the next slide for me? Because I like the next slide better. There's a bunch of different types of shadow people. The most common ones you'll see here, kind of your predators. So those are the ones that you get this feeling when you're waking up or whatever, that something just staring over you. And the big thing with shadow people is that there is no physical contact. What it will be is more of a feeling. It'll reach a peak where you just feel like this is it. You're just going to get pummeled. And as soon as it maxes out, that's it. It stops. If you ever have physical contact, it's not a shadow person. It's more likely an intelligent haunting. Same with, we see a lot of times, oh, well, I turned around and there's this black shadow person standing there. If you can turn around and you see it for more than a second, that is not a shadow person. It is more likely a shadow figure or a shadow apparition, something along those lines, not an actual shadow person. And that kind of more leans towards the intellectual haunting, although it could be residual as well, depending on what's standing there and what it's doing. Yeah, shadow people. Fun stuff.
All right, Jinn, best way to describe Jinn, that everyone can understand, is genie. That's what it basically is. When you watch like the movies like Aladdin, not so much. A lot different than that. Jinn basically were here way before we were. They polluted the planet, had their shot, and they got booted to the fifth dimension. They basically asked God to prove that we are not the inferior race, and they were basically allowed to try to prove that we're not inferior. So that's why they are able to intermingle with our world. Basically, the way Jinn work, there are good Jinn, there are bad Jinn. The whole genie in a bottle thing has some truth to it, where you're able to grant 3 wishes, but always remember, in granting those 3 wishes, there's always going to be something else that happens. So for instance, one of your wishes is, I wish to be wealthy. Sure, no problem, and you probably will. But a family member might pass away and you get an inheritance. There's always a drawback to what you're getting. So that's why it's like, shouldn't really mess with it. They are the trickster forms. They like to play jokes on us, play tricks on us, move stuff around, very similar to the poltergeist activity, but there's no epicenter here, it just happens. Our human contact with Jinn, we're back, started from 6000 BCE. A very long time ago was our first interaction with Jinn. There are different levels of Jinn, if you want to roll that. So Jinn are basically, they're smokeless forms, almost like plasma forms. And there are different levels of Jinn. So starting off at the lowest level, the green Jinn, these are more of the younger Jinn, the trickster generation of Jinn. They like to play games with us, mess with us. They're really not in a negative aspect. Like, yeah, they'll piss us off by moving stuff around, but nothing really negative is going to happen when it comes to green Jinn. They are able to, form in different types of animals, as you can see here. Some of them are like cats, snakes, stuff like that, dogs, cats, all sorts of stuff. That's your green Jinn. Next one is yellow Jinn. There's a reason why you don't see anything of yellow Jinn. There hasn't been a whole lot of interaction with us and the yellow Jinn. They kind of keep to themselves. They really don't want any part of us. We don't really want any part of them. So the visual aspect of a yellow Jinn is few and far between. It really just doesn't happen too much. Next one, we get into the blue Jinn. These are starting to get into the more powerful Jinn. There are good Jinn and there are bad Jinn when it comes to blue. When you look at the left-hand side of your screen, it doesn't look so bad, but when you start to go towards the right end, you wouldn't really want to come across something that looked like that. So basically, yeah, these are a lot more powerful than your green and yellow Jinn. This is where it starts to get intense, where if these things start to enter into your life, they can start to do some damage. Then we go to the next one, which is your black Jinn. So the black Jinn control the blue, the yellow, and the green. They are the highest hierarchy of that side of Jinn. Once again, these guys they don't really so much interact with humans, more or less. They interact with other Jinn. They're the controlling Jinn of that factor. Super powerful, very powerful in that aspect. Like I said, we don't usually come in contact with the black Jinn. Then we go to the red Jinn, which is the other side. So this is more of your, if you're looking at it in terms of Catholicism, your demon Jinn, your Satan, the worst of the worst. They will interact with humans in a severe negative way. As you can see, none of them look friendly. I wouldn't want to come across anything like that at all. These guys get into your life and it will create complete turmoil, bankrupt you, divorce, you name it, and the list goes on. How do you get rid of these types of things, or how do you protect yourself from this? Number one, don't make a deal. Don't rub a genie on a bottle and make 3 wishes. That's one possible way. Go to our next slide. Certain symbols in religion. You have the evil eye, Egyptian sun, the cross, Star of David. Jinn aren't necessarily religious based. They can care less. Even though they do come from Middle Eastern descent from many, many years ago, they can care less. So depending on what religion you are, a lot of times this does help and this does work, as long as you're not making deals and stuff. That's pretty much when it comes to Jinn. The way we pretty much set up our presentation, it started out with residual haunting and it's going up to the worse and worse and worse. We're getting to the Jinn level, so it's on a pretty bad level. So next one.
Elemental. You don't really hear too much about elementals, but they are there. They are the beings that correspond with the 4 directions: earth, air, wind, and fire. Most of them, they correspond with the belief of they were the building blocks of nature. That's where the sort of elementals came from. You can't see them with your eyes. However, if you're sensitive, you may be able to see them. And they have been known to pop up in pictures every once in a while. Few and far between. But like we say in the paranormal world, if you get a picture of something, like alone. Usually they will live in places like forests and rivers and volcanic areas and mountaintops, way out of the way of humans. There are 4 different types of elementals. First are the air elementals, and they can be classified as gnomes. Little guys with 20 hats and the beards, right? Not all of them are gnomes. The gnome classification usually takes care of all the creatures, the land, and takes care of all the little rabbits and bunnies and everything like that. They tend to live in grasslands and forests. Some examples are elves, little gnomes, dwarves, things like that. The water elementals, you probably never heard of this one. They're called undines. Undines are very emotional. They take care of the waters, and they definitely are very emotional, so they can turn on you on a dime. They look all nice and pretty and very nice in the beginning, but then, like the mermaids, they can eat your soul. Fire elementals are all classified as salamanders. They live in volcanic areas and places with a lot of heat. They make fire. They are in charge of creation and destruction and are very good with magic. They reside anywhere where there's fire, and they can come and, like the Jinn, they're smokeless fire, but these guys, they actually show up as balls of fire. So they are real fire. Then the final ones are air elements, and they are classified as sylphs. Now, sylphs control all of the wind and all of the weather conditions and help birds migrate and flowers pollinate. Their primary habitat is the tops of mountains, and a lot of them are said to be the most beautiful of all of the elementals, where some of them are seen to have wings like angels and fairies. Sometimes they come in human form, but since you really can't see them, it's very few and far between. The elementals are basically in charge of taking care of the earth and nurturing it, but there's always the ones that are malicious. So not all of them are happy to see this, right? So on the next slide, we have here the Little People Village in Middlebury, Connecticut. This story here, gentleman purchased a piece of land, put a house on it, was happy with his house, but then all of a sudden started having activity on the land in his house. He had a group of investigators come over, and they found out that it was an elemental haunting. Luckily for him, it was a benign haunting. So in reverence to the elementals, he put up this Little People Village. And as you can see here, it is tiny. Not all elementals are tiny. Some of them are big, but you don't know who's living there. And in this particular village, there's a little chair. and the little chair is said to be cursed. If anybody who sits on the chair doesn't have an offering to the elementals, they can be cursed to be dead in 7 years. Now, my friend Connor here, what do you think he did?
I sat in a chair 2 years ago. Yeah, Mike was saying the whole time, don't sit in the chair, as I continued to walk to the chair, and then I sat down. Because yeah, we are paranormal investigators, so I mean, it's all great to know all the facts and to, you know, go to the place and look at it, but I just thought, I really want to investigate it. I didn't really think too far ahead where I can only investigate one curse at a time. I kind of picked like a long one to do. So we have the date written down in the Google Calendar. So if I live to that date, chair's fake. So we'll find out.
I don't usually mess with curses. Odds are nothing's gonna happen, but there are a lot of places very similar to this that have those types of curses where if you go there, suicide forest is like a well-known one. I don't mess with stuff like that just because maybe it could happen, and I'm like, nope, I'm good. So, but we'll see what happens with that, I guess.
Great choice.
I have his coffin picked out, his eulogy all
There
done,
we go.
right?
So, yeah.
So on our next slide, these guys aren't so lucky. This is Leeds Castle in Ireland, and unfortunately, the elementals there aren't happy with humans. They have a negative haunting experience with them. Beautiful castle, beautiful grounds, but the elementals are not happy, unfortunately.
Yeah,
So
I think Ghost Hunters, that team investigated there back in, I want to say around 2008. It was like the second or third season, and they had some crazy stuff happen, knowing elemental activity. So
and that's our elementals.
then we get into the worst of the worst, demonology, study of demons. What is a demon? It's a fallen angel. Basically, what happened many moons ago. You had the angels in heaven, and then basically we were created at free will. Some angels did not like that, so they kind of went against God's will, and they got cast out of heaven, creating good, bad, heaven, hell, angels and demons. They are basically here to wreck us, to prove our sins, and not, because we have free will and they're not allowed to have that, they want to disrupt us. There are many different cases that are involved in demonology. So you have demonic haunts, which are kind of on an uprise. Then you have possession, totally different. Possession cases are extremely rare, but they do happen. They are the extreme of the extreme. That's when the demon actually possesses the person. And movies that you've seen, The Exorcist, Exorcism of Emily Rose, that type of stuff, that stuff does happen. It's not just Hollywood. That stuff is real. And this is kind of where, unfortunately, you do take the science out of it. Even though when the Catholic Church comes in on a possession case, first thing they do is you go get a psych evaluation done. And if you find out that there's anything, schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, they will not do an exorcism on you. Straight up will not do it, because they will turn around and say that's the problem, that's the cause of it. Which is unfortunate, because that doesn't mean you can't be possessed if you have those types of disorders. You can, but the Catholic Church doesn't touch it because it's a huge issue. So that's unfortunate, that's what happens, but it's where you take the science aspect out, because once you enter into the rites of exorcism, that's where it's a whole new ball. There's nothing scientifically proven, but the exorcist comes in, does all of his prayers and the rites, and eventually, hopefully, the demon leaves your body. And on some occasions that happens, and some occasions it doesn't. So, Amityville Horror House, everyone knows it. It's here on Long Island in Amityville. You can go to the house, drive by it, check it out. Don't go during Halloween, you probably get pulled over. So we all know what happened here. It was the DeFeo family. Basically, they killed everyone in the house, and there was a lot of drugs involved, so on and so forth. Later on, after it was cleaned up, the Lutz family moved in. I think they were in there for about 32 or 38 days or something like that. They moved out on Christmas Eve night. They were having activity since they moved in, since day one. We actually did a presentation with the youngest son, Chris Lutz. He sat down and spoke to us, and still to this day, he has stuff that followed him from that house to wherever he lives. He's actually living in Arizona now. And he says, you know, people, he doesn't care if you believe him or not. He says, this stuff's real. It happens to me every day. I have to deal with this. So it's that crazy. Right now, I don't personally think anything's going on in that house. You drive by that house is absolutely beautiful. It's amazing. And the people have been living there for the past couple decades haven't claimed anything happened. So whatever was there probably left. Next one. Robert Dahl. So Robert Dahl in Florida, this used to be in the Florida Keys. Basically, it was on display. This was a demonic doll. If you wanted to take a photo of it, you would have to ask permission. If you did not ask permission, usually something bad would happen to you. Not death or anything like that, but some bad factor would happen. Somebody actually stole the doll. Who knows where it is today? I personally think that it'll end up eventually in Zach Bagans Museum in Las Vegas and
Yeah,
with all of his other haunted stuff. But right now, nobody knows where it is, and this doll is roaming around somewhere. So next. Then we have the famous Annabelle doll. They made a bunch of movies off of it. I think the first one was pretty close to the story. But this is one of the cases that Ed and Lorraine Warren investigated. It's a haunted doll. The doll here is totally different than the doll you see in the movies. Personally, I think that is a hell of a lot more creepier than what you see in the movies because it looks so innocent. Most people had a Raggedy Ann doll in their house when they were growing up as kids, especially if you grew up in the 80s. My sister had one. I now when I know I wouldn't, I hated it. So, but here you have this doll is enclosed in a box for a reason. When the Warrens Museum was open in Connecticut, if you were able to go in there, they tell you do not touch this box. And if you do, they will have to do like a prayer on you, and they'll do like a holy water on you and everything, because this thing can get attached to you and then you bring that stuff home. You do not want this type of energy following you at home. So yeah, it's Annabelle the doll. Next. This is the Annalise Michaels exorcism. This is the exorcism of Emily Rose. That's the movie. If you've seen the movie, this is the case. The movie hits that case very close, very close. This is what she looked like prior to possession. This is her in a possession state. She actually did die during that case. That's why the priest was held on trial. Had him held on for, I think his charge was for neglect. Because they kept putting him in a hospital and things weren't working. So they were pushing for more of doing exorcisms. The hospital wanted to try to treat her medically. Nothing was working. So she wound up dying, unfortunately. This is a true case. This stuff really did happen. See, that's, like I said, exorcism of Emily Rose really puts a good idea in your head of what a possession case really does look like. So. Prayers used in demonology. A lot of times, a lot of people will contact us saying, hey, I think I have a demon in my house, or so on and so forth. And we hope that's not the case. And 99% of the time, it's not. It could just be some negative energy. That doesn't mean it's demonic. We always use the prayers of St. Benedict, prayers of St. Michael. These are prayers that are used in demonology. When I started getting into demonology, I kind of started happening, things would happen at home. I started having crazy dreams, and I would print these two prayers out, post them on my wall. And ever since I did that, I had a cross hanging up. I was good. It kind of like went away. But yeah, this stuff does work. And a lot of times when people contact us, we send them the prayers, they say it, they post it, and it usually works for the most part. There are those cases that it doesn't. We don't usually deal with demonic cases. If we go into someone's home and it turns out that, yeah, it's demonic, we have two options. At that moment, we can either leave and this thing's not going to follow us, or we can stay at free will, knowing what's there, and now it's fair game. Most likely, this thing's going to follow us home. It's not something you want to follow you home, so we would leave at that point. We have a whole, bunch of people we can call. We have known demonologists that we know. We know a couple of priests that we can contact. They would come in and handle the situation. If they needed our help, we would assist if need be, but that's going to come from that type of person. So I think that's it. Yeah. That's our presentation. We can do Q&A if anybody has any questions for us. Anybody? Yep, one right here.
Yes, what about when you go, on the series and everything, Paranormal Caught on Camera
Yes.
is really good.
Yes.
Just about watched all of them. They warn against buying antiques and everything from shops because it could bring some spirit or, could be possessed. They mentioned like a debit box.
The big box,
Yeah.
that's a different aspect of it. Starting with the antique aspect
Yeah.
of it, anytime you bring antiques home, it doesn't even have to be an antique. It could be a current item.
Yeah.
Sometimes what happens is when people are living, they're super attached to an item. They love that item, whatever it is. Something happens, they pass away. They might, once they pass away, still be attached to that item. So when you take that item and you buy it, it could be attached and you can be getting that spiritual energy from it. A big box is something totally different. I don't mess with it. Most of the time, there's nothing in it. It's probably just a made up thing. There are real Dybbuk boxes, but ones that are out there, they sell them on eBay. I don't mess with stuff like that. I would never just buy one and be like, sure, let me just open this thing up in my house, because negative stuff could come from it. I think on Paranormal, Ghost Adventures, I think they opened up a Dybbuk box on their show once, all craziness happens. Remember, TV is TV. What you see on TV isn't 100%. Paranormal Caught on Camera. I'm not a huge fan of that show because they don't have stuff. They have all these para celebs,
Yeah.
and that's nice. And if you pay somebody a paycheck to say this, some people will be like, sure, I'll do it. Put me on that show, and 95% of that stuff, debunk, and I'll tell you how to do it. It's unfortunate. A lot of TV shows are like that. I think the only real show, to be honest with you, out there right now at this moment is Destination Fear.
Yeah.
Every other show, fake stuff or exaggerated stuff in some type of aspect way. You have, anytime you get hits on the equipment, not saying that this stuff doesn't really happen, because we've had stuff happen, but I've worked with film crews before, the K2 meter, the REM pods. You have a wireless mic on you, and depending on where that cameraman is positioned, this stuff's gonna start going off. Instead of them saying that, they feed into it. So it's unfortunate. The device, the Ovilus, the one that has a word bank that spits out words, we have that device. I purchased it just to develop it. It's got a 500 word database. That's what we have. The ones they use in the shows, it's a little micro SD card. They may only put 20 words in there. So eventually they know what words are going to come out. When the words that come out that they want, they exaggerate it. It sucks because it makes our job a lot harder in this field. We're trying to prove that this is a legit scientific field. The stuff on TV takes that away from us. So it's the reason why we don't have a TV show as well.
A little bit also about the antiques, like Mike was saying. So I said in the beginning, I work for the Southampton History Museum, and in our collection, we have over 40,000 different objects. And so the difference between what we have and what you might have at your house or something like that is everything in your house is yours or your family's. Everything at the museum has been given to us over the 120 years that the museum has existed by thousands of different people from all over the world. So it could just be one really nasty haunted teacup that's making my museum super spooky and scary all the time, or it could be several different items. It's almost impossible to tell. And that's one sort of thing you always have to think about when going antiquing or anything like that. At least I always think about just, being involved in museums and ghost hunting. I'm always like, oh, this is nice, but I don't know.
Any other questions? Sure.
Do you have experience where your batteries get drained?
Yes. So great question.
And then the next part of the question is, which batteries drain faster, the lead acid, nickel, cadmium, or the lithium?
That's a great question. That we don't track, we probably should. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen as often as people claim it to happen. So, yes, so you'll hear people that have a video camera or, a little digital camera fully charged. They go to a location, a public ghost hunt most of the time. 5 minutes later, that battery's dead. Basically, what's happening is the theory is that when a ghost is manifesting, it needs energy. It's going to pull energy from anywhere. In this case, the batteries of your camera. And it pulls out energy to try to manifest, it drains the battery. I believe there's some truth to that. What we did in the IPA, because you can't test that. You can say that there was a full battery, but sometimes just because the battery says it's fully charged, doesn't always mean it is. So what we did was we created a device to test that. We took a voltage meter that ranges from 0 to 15 volts, hooked it up to a 9-volt battery with a switch. You turn it on, what does it read? 9 volts, always. Now what we're looking for is a sudden drain. And we set these devices up and we monitor them throughout the night. There have been times where we will monitor them and all of a sudden you'll see it at 9 volts and bam, it'll just drop down, stay there and then jump back up. So there's no way that the device that we created, there's no draw on power. All it is just reading the battery. So yeah, I believe there's some truth to that theory. And we've had stuff happen with that. So yeah. And the next one with tracking the batteries, that's, if you want to go super scientific, that's what you would do. You would actually figure out which devices are getting drained and then start tracking, okay, what batteries are we
Which one
using?
they prefer.
Sure, no, absolutely not. That's a good, that's a scientific way of thinking, absolutely.
A new
100%.
piece of paperwork for us to fill out.
Thank you. Because we track everything, ever since 2003, we've been filling out field reports. So we've been on probably over 850 investigations, 900 investigations. We have 900 field reports. So we're tracking every time we go out in the field. We have so much data now that we're able to look at it and condense it down to a tracking chart and kind of see, okay, this time of year is the best time to go at this specific location. And we're starting to do that. We're actually finding the results are heading pretty well. So
One of the best places we have for that is actually Mount Misery site too. We've noticed throughout all of our field reports and all of our tracking, then for whatever reason, the activity spikes in September during a full moon. And we've even gone further to look at it, and it looks like it's kind of on like a 7-year cycle. So it's kind of like lower, lower, lower. And then on that 7th year, it just peaks. And then it goes down. And then once again, that 7th year, just for whatever reason, we don't know, but just looking at our field reports, we can track that and see this is when we're getting equipment hits. This is when we're getting EVPs and all of that stuff. So it's kind of.
any other questions?
Do you ever bring in a medium with you?
We have psychics in our group, absolutely. The best thing about our group is we're mainly scientific, but we pull both aspects. We have psychics in our group. Our psychic, she's equipment. She's one of them. She'll tell you, we'll throw her out there with an EMF meter or a digital camera, audio recorder, whatever it is. She's out there investigating. And the best thing with the psychic is that if they feel something from over here and they have a camera, they can start taking pictures. I don't feel anything. I'm not sensitive, I'm not psychic. So I'm just taking random photos where if she's able to pinpoint something over in that direction, now she's got a focus point, which is great. So we pull both aspects in the field, especially when we're doing cleansings. When you do a house cleansing, you take the science and you throw it right out the window. That's when you're dealing with, depending on the client, if they're religious based or if they're spiritual based, you're burning sage, you're using different types of stones, dropping salt down. So yeah, I mean, you have to, in this field, you have to, you can't just be one or the other. You kind of got to pull both aspects in there. So,
I would always be afraid of things getting attached,
sure.
like to dabble and be like, oh shoot.
No, yeah, this is a very dangerous field. Believe it or not, everyone thinks it, and yes, it is cool, and you see this stuff on TV. Yeah, I want to go on a ghost hunt. It is definitely a cool experience to have when nothing negative happens. You don't have attachments. When we investigate, a lot of times when we leave a location, we'll say whatever's here has to stay here, cannot follow us home. Most of the time that happens. Most of the time. There are times where people do have attachments, and we've had that happen in our group a couple of years back. It's still with them to this day. So, and it's, you kind of just learn to deal with it almost. Most paranormal groups out there, you'll read about them in books and their team will just break up. We're a family. We're not just a paranormal team. We're a family. We're a very close knit bond where if somebody's going through something, we all try to help out and step in, give that person the full support as needed. So, but yeah, it can happen. Absolutely.
And that kind of goes.
Just to piggyback upon that, what Mike was saying about demonic possessions, they're very extremely rare.
Right.
Most of the attachments that you will have is just a regular human being looking to relive life vicariously through you. The only problem with that is if they happen to have been an addict of some sort, you may see your life kind of go downhill a little bit and wonder what the heck's going on. If you're, just somebody who likes one occasional glass of wine to having like 7 bottles a day, then there's something going on, right? Normally we can rid people of those types of normal attachments rather easily. The person who has the attachment has to want to agree to remove the attachment. If they, for whatever reason, decide they want to keep the attachment because they feel close to the attachment, then it's a little difficult to remove the attachment. But usually through a way called compassionate depossession that I've been trained in, we can usually remove the entity from the person rather quickly.
So there was a question on the chat. You wanna?
Yeah, so question in the chat was, when was the last time you witnessed a haunting? So I actually have 2 separate things for this. So we were just recently in Gettysburg, because we go there a lot, which is why you saw so much about it. And we were at a location called Railroad Cut. And Railroad Cut, it's kind of an interesting thing. It's way out on the outskirts of the battlefield. And basically what it is, it's a valley with train tracks and that go down it. There's a whole story with that if you're interested. I'm not going to get into it now because it's a lot, but basically what happened there was me and another investigator, Steve, were kind of doing our thing, and he went to, there's this bridge up that goes and acts as a road over the railroad, and he went over to that bridge by himself, and all of a sudden he comes running back and says, I just heard this woman speak to me. Like, well, that's interesting. Let's go over. So we grab our stuff and we head over. And he's got a device called the RShack. And basically what it is, it's an IR thermometer. Shoots out an IR beam, reads the temperature of whatever it's pointing at. And he's got it pointed, I believe, down in the valley at like a rock face or whatever, completely stationary. All of a sudden it drops 15 degrees and he starts getting chills. I was like, I've never personally seen that device do anything other than you hold it still and it reads the exact temperature. And when it dropped, we were like, wow, that's interesting. So we're talking about it for a little bit. And I have what's called a peak meter. Again, another thermometer. We like to kind of double and triple check our equipment. So we'll usually bring 2 thermometers, 2 EMF, 2 this, 2 that. So the peak meter just kind of senses the temperature right around it. So it's not pointing, it's just right there. And I'm talking to him about, hot spots and cold spots. And all of a sudden, my peak meter just drops 10 degrees. Again, I have never seen these thermometers do that before. And I was like taken aback a little bit. And it was a little cold, but it wasn't like 10 degrees difference. And I'm like looking at it, and then all of a sudden it goes back up. It was very weird. So that was my latest haunting. I think that happened. I don't even know what time it is anymore. 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. I don't even remember.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago we were in Gettysburg.
But hope that answered your question in the chat.
Yeah, I knew somebody actually went to Gettysburg College
Oh, nice.
and actually transferred. The friends used to hear different sounds on the battlefield. And then, guess you heard of the story about the Indian princess from Lake Ontario.
Of course. We
Okay.
investigated that, yeah.
I used to lifeguard back in the 70s.
Okay.
I knew 2 guards that actually were up on the tower, the town of Brookhaven side, which doesn't have a beach anymore since the ice subsided. And they're up on the tower at night, and they looked out on the water, and they saw a mist coming up from the middle of the lake. And then they saw a silhouette of what they believed was the princess. And they told their story the next day. Now, I lifeguarded there in 77, 78, And I used to swim across that lake. I always brought a torpedo with me,
Sure.
you know, because I used to run down to the Bavarian Inn at the time,
Okay.
used to swim
Yeah.
back. And I never really witnessed anything abnormal or never saw the princess. But 3 years ago, 2018, I came upon somebody and he told me a story about when he was in the lake in the 80s with his girlfriend, now was his wife, and the oars broke. Okay, so he went and jumped out of the boat, the canoe, and he went to grab the rope and he was going to bring it to shore.
Right.
And then he felt the tug. And then he thought he saw seaweed. And he said it was hair. It was like a long mange of hair. And he said, what's going on here? Then he saw a face. And he jumped right back into the canoe and did nothing. I mean, did nothing. And his girlfriend said, what happened? It looked like you saw a ghost. He goes, I think I just saw the princess. So they were in that canoe and this kind of floating around for the longest time. Finally, he went and he put his hands in the water and they got to shore.
Yeah.
Okay? But now there's this lady who's writing a book, not a book, she's doing a picture about the princess. It was in one of the papers.
Okay.
Yeah, so,
Very cool.
but that's my story.
Yeah, no, I mean, we've
Yeah.
investigated the lake multiple times, different sections of it, and,
Yeah.
you know, sometimes we capture stuff, and we have caught stuff there, and sometimes you don't. It's the
Yeah.
paranormal field, you know, just because a place is haunted doesn't mean every time you
Right,
go
right,
there,
right.
you're gonna get something, you know, that's what makes it awesome.
Yeah.
I just wondered, when someone wants you to go to a case, how do you all decide to do it? And do you all have to agree to do it?
Usually we just listen to Mike.
Yeah, I'm
That guy right there.
basically what happens is somebody emails us, you know, saying, hey, you know, I think I have activity coming on in my house, you know, what do we do? So we send you a questionnaire that has 50 questions on it. That kind of weeds out the people that aren't real or just, you know, it's their faking it, you know, so you know if somebody fills that out, all right, they want to take it to the next step. So then once that happens, I kind of talk to the team, be like, all right, guys, we're gonna set up this case. Depending on how big the location is, the house determines how many of us we go. So if it's a big house, we might send like 5 or 6 of us. And I'll kind of ask the group, all right, guys, we're gonna schedule this 2 weeks from now, who's available? If everyone raises their hand, I kind of just go through and I need a case manager, I need a tech guy, and then these 2 people can go. And we do a rotation. We have charts that track all this stuff. So the next case that comes, the people with that went on that one probably won't go on the next one. Gives everyone kind of an opportunity to jump on house cases. That's kinda how
I
we
just
do it.
have one more question.
Sure.
Do people make donations? How did you charge?
Yeah,
for this?
so,
How do you
yeah, we don't get
guys
paid.
pay?
We don't get paid.
We pay to be.
We,
here.
we all pay. There's a membership
You
fee
laugh.
that we all pay per month. I pay it too. I don't get paid. And, you know, we do presentations, we do public ghost hunts. That's kind of how we get paid. And then we do have donations where if we, you know, we don't charge for house investigations. So, but if somebody wants to make a donation, that's great. If you can't, that's fine too. It is what it is. So,
Oh,
but
okay.
we do, yeah, we do have something.
Yeah, thank you.
One question.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to go to Philadelphia, Eastern State Penitentiary.
yeah,
And I
awesome
saw
place.
that. It's an awesome place. And Ghost Hunters was there and they actually filmed a hooded, you know, a shadow figure with a cape.
Yes.
I
I
ran
saw that.
down,
Yes,
the
first, I think it was the
second
first season, right?
yes, the
Yes.
very first season. And
Yeah,
I went there and I'll tell you, you can feel something is their presence.
yeah. I
Because,
mean,
you know, and a lot of people say that they go down there for the tour, Eastern State Penitentiary, but I'm telling you, you feel it, there's somebody back to you. or around the
100%.
corner.
100%,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
When we were there, we
It
actually
is.
booked the place, just our team, and this is back in 2008. And you had like the central rotunda,
Yes.
which that's where our HQ was. And it was towards the end of the night, so everyone kind of like, we met back up and everyone kind of split out because they wanted to get their last 45 minutes in. So I was kind of stuck there by myself. So I'm like, well, I don't want to just sit here. I want to go and investigate. So I walked down one of the wings. It wasn't a cell block, and it got to where the Al Capone cell is.
Yeah.
And you have, I think it's like 3 cell blocks off of that area. I went down one of those cell blocks because I saw my team at the other end outside. So I'm like, all right, let me try to catch up with them. So as I was walking down that cell block, I felt like just all of those cells had just people in there just eyeballing. You could just feel like you were being watched. And it was so intense where finally when I got outside, it just like went away. It was,
Yeah.
I can't explain it. Like, it's
Yeah,
just a
I
crazy
felt the
feeling.
same thing. It's
Mhm.
very intense and
It
others
is. Oh, yeah.
that went there, they don't walk out of there without feeling something.
Yeah,
I know
no,
it's
the
present.
place is awesome. Like,
Yes,
I
it
want to go
is.
back so bad, so.
It is.
I got a question. When you go to certain places like Mount Misery, do you get permission to go into that or?
So yeah, on Long Island, every location that we go, unfortunately on Long Island, most of our locations anyway, you can't be in a cemetery at night. Most county parks, you can't be in at nighttime. So those places, Kings Park is definitely off limits. We kind of go in, there's been times where we've gotten busted, cops would show up and, we're very professional. I'm not gonna run from the cops. I'm 41 years old, you know, and my days of running are far gone. So what we do is, you know, a lot of times we'll walk up to them, we'll explain who we are, and sometimes the cop will be like, you guys are good. Other times we'll be like, just get the hell out of here. So
We're
It's hit
all
or
in
miss.
matching
Yeah,
t-shirts
you
with
know,
ID
with IDs and
badges
everything,
and
so
everything,
you-
with freaking weird equipment, so
Right.
usually it's,
Yeah.
they're like, what are you freaks doing?
So it's
So,
few
I
and far
think
between. A lot of times, you know, we kind of go in stealthy too, so you don't even know we're in there. So, but yeah. Any other questions?
Is it possible to be involved in the group and not go on?
Usually not. The way our systems are set up is you're an active member. We do have out-of-state guests that were members originally that moved out of state and they're still part of the group. They do kind of a lot of promoting and stuff like that, but that's only for out-of-state people. We usually don't. If you're able to be down, that's it, like you're down. So.
If you are looking for a good way to participate in the group, but maybe you don't want to like, commit your life like we have, we do public ghost hunts. If you go to either the links on the screen there, either right to our website or to our link tree, you'll find direct links to buy tickets to some of our upcoming programs. It's a great way to support the group. And some of those are going to be at actually the Tesla Science Center this Friday. There are, I believe, about 10 or so tickets still on sale. And then at the Southampton History Museum this Saturday, as well as next Saturday, there's a handful of tickets left for both of those. So you can come on and join us for an actual paranormal investigation. Small groups of about 6 to 10 people, so it's not that crowded, so you get a more intimate experience.
Yeah. And what we do at these events is we're showing you what a real, genuine paranormal investigation consists of, not kind of what you see on TV. We're going to go through all the equipment. We have it all. We show you how we use it the correct way, how it's able to be manipulated as well. Sometimes we capture stuff, sometimes we don't. Just hit or miss.
Have one line item, said one more question. What about Pilgrim State?
I've personally never, the only thing I've ever done at Pilgrim was the Potter's Field. That was it, and that was kind of sketchy. Because it's still an open facility, I don't really mess with that because they can really get you on that. Where Kings Park, they might just be like, get the hell out of here. Where because Pilgrim is still partially open, I don't usually mess with that. I'm sure the abandoned buildings over there have stuff going on in them, but I would love to get in there, but that's something I would prefer to do legally than illegally. So, yeah. Question, Becca?
Yeah, I was just curious, did you ever go to Mount Pleasant in cemetery, it's in Center Ridges?
No. No, Pleasant, no, we have not.
Because one time I went to go visit my mother's grave and I put on my eye and seen like an older woman like walking by and I didn't think that, but I
Sure.
just was, I do my thing. I left and I kind of looked up and I didn't see anything. But still, I just went, went home and everything. And about a year later, okay, I was talking to my brother-in-law and he went, my sister was saying, was at my mother's grave. And he said, because one time he goes, I saw this lady like walking and I'm like, was she like an older woman? He's like, yeah. I go, and did she have like it looks like a bluish kind of shape? Yeah. I'm like, I go, I saw the same woman. He goes, yeah, she just disappeared. He goes, and I had to ask the owner, like, is there like haunting here? Because one time they walked their dog there too, and the dog could just keep barking at certain stones. And she said, I don't know where the dog just started barking like crazy. So I'm just curious if you ever went.
No, we haven't, but we'll check it out.
Yeah,
We'll definitely check it out.
We'll be there soon.
It was the same
Sure.
area too, and
Okay.
it came out of like like the right of me, and then kind of like she was walking.
Wow.
He said, I go, really? He goes, it told someone, I was telling someone, where did that woman go? And she was telling
Sure.
what woman, you know? So I said, I saw the same person.
Interesting.
I said, but
Yeah.
I didn't think nothing of it either. I just thought it was somebody visiting.
Right.
That's how vivid she looked to me.
Mhm.
But, and then someone had said that they had heard that that cemetery was kind of haunted. It's
We'll
very
definitely,
old.
we'll definitely probably check it out.
Yeah, it's a very old.
I'm very old.
That's cool.
cemetery.
Awesome.
What about orbs? Are they?
So orbs, okay, so this is a very big misinterpretation in the paranormal field. This is why I hate TV shows and everything that they shove down everyone's throat. So basically orbs, orbs do exist. It's a known phenomenon. What an orb really is, we don't know. It's a ball of energy. Where the energy came from, that we can't tell. We do know that energy cannot be created or destroyed. So when a person passes away, their energy has to go somewhere. We don't know where. So an orb, the true definition is circular in shape, generates its own light source, which is a key factor, is that it has to generate its own light source, follows its own flight pattern, okay? Most of the time, 99 out of 100 pictures, video cameras that capture these things, if it's a ball that's translucent, it is dust, water vapor, pollen that's just floating in the air, and it's just the way the IR light or your light hit that, and that's what it shows. I can say it because I can prove it, and I can create it every single time. When we do the Rogers Mansion events, we have a camera in the basement. You watch that camera for less than 2 minutes, you'll see these circular, transparent balls floating around, and it's dust. And people are like, well, how do you know that? I'm like, because I can go down there right now, just run back and forth, and it'll all just start shooting up because you're kicking up all that dust. Not to say that these things don't really exist, it's just most of the time, that's what it is, unfortunately. And the TV shows play off that so much. They'll be like, oh, look at that, it's a ghost. And I'm like, no, it's not.
Even better, you can just simply ask Nikon, because Nikon at one point was getting so many of these photos, and they came back, one biggest manufacturers in the world. They came back and said, guys, it's just dust. It's not ghosts or anything. It's just dust or water vapor.
This is what we're talking about. This is something that we purposely went out to. We went out on a misty night, purposely to capture this, to show people. This is what the stuff that is that you're capturing. So this is what people claim to be ghosts in a cemetery. It's not. We purposely went out on a misty night and took these photos on a regular digital camera.
Well, a common theory, probably the most important theory that we operate with is Occam's razor.
Stuff like that.
So what that is basically the easiest explanation, probably the explanation. So yeah, one of those orbs, maybe it's a ghost. Probably most of them aren't. So we just gotta kind of throw it out, because how can you really tell from that one photo what's a ghost, what's not a ghost? You can't really ask it a question. So we only want to present the best, most concrete evidence that we have. So we have like, honestly, probably hundreds, if not thousands of EVPs, electronic voice phenomenons, that are just like, and that's not really that compelling.
Right.
So we know it wasn't us. It's cool to keep, but we're not going to show you because it's kind of boring. We'll show you the ones where they say I'm burning, get me out of here. That's, more interesting.
When it comes to the evidence, the majority of our evidence is audio, which is EVP's electronic voice phenomena. It's picked up on digital recorders. Photos is, if we're lucky, 1 in every 1,000 photos we take. And we use all different types of cameras. We use regular digital point and shoot, SLR. We use IR, full spectrum, UV, FLIR, thermal imaging cameras. We use them all. So 1 out of every 1,000 photos, we might capture something. Honestly, when it comes to video, I have a better chance of winning the lotto than you capturing a ghost on video. That's the reality of it. It just doesn't happen. It's very few and far between. I've seen some compelling evidence. I think there was 2 or 3 years ago, it was just 2 people that were on Gettysburg Battlefield at nighttime. They pulled their car over and they had a cell phone camera just viewing some of the cannons. And they heard that there was activity there a couple weeks ago. And they were filming for about maybe 25, 30 minutes. And sure enough, all of a sudden you see this apparition of a soldier pop up, walk around the cannon and just disappear. And the footage looks pretty good. But that just, you capture that by a lot of, It's not, it's the odds, it really is. I wish we would stop for stuff like that. Like I said, we've been doing this for 18 years. You'd never find anything like that.
Go right to Jason's gate.
Yeah.
Like in the afternoon or,
So, a lot of people ask that, why do you do this at night? A lot of times it's because the traffic, everyone's kind of settled in. So the sound quality is better. It's definitely spookier. But there's just not a lot of people out at nighttime. When we were at Gettysburg 2 weeks ago, we started our investigations at 5:15. And we had to be out of there like that, at what, 7:15? We only had a 2-hour time slot. For the most part, it was daytime. We're in the process of doing our evidence, so we're gonna see what we find. Doesn't mean that things don't happen during the day. They absolutely do. People just aren't aware sometimes.
It's also, we all have jobs as well, so it's
Yeah.
kind of hard to.
Maybe one
do
day.
daytime, but-
Thankfully, my job is haunted, so I do see stuff during the day.
Yeah.
but-
And I was actually on Long Island on vacation at one point in one of the Indian burial grounds. And it was 12 o'clock in the afternoon, and as soon as I walked in, I felt the presence. So they are definitely out all hours of the day. It's just that when your physical self and your mental self is more quiet, that's when you're able to experience them a little bit more.
Take 2 more questions and then. Anybody else? All right.
Awesome.
You guys do have any questions, feel free to email us. Our cards are over there. You can take email us anytime. Check us out on social media. Maybe we'll see you at one of our public press meetings. Thanks for coming, guys. Appreciate it.